Okay, our goal is I'm going to make a picture that looks kind of like this. You guys take a look at it a little bit better. But what we're going to do is we're going to add on elements of somebody's face. In this case, I'm going to use my face to a picture of a pumpkin. Okay, and we're going to add these things in, try and make it look like they belong and that they're part of the pumpkin. So I'm going to need two pictures here. One, I've got a picture of me, and I also have a picture of a pumpkin. Okay, if you're in my class, then you would have already taken these photos, and you can just kind of follow along from here. So what we're going to do is this. First, I can trash this. I do not need that anymore. I need to cut out my mouth and I need to cut out my eyes. And we're going to bring those over to the picture with the pumpkin. So I can do that by using the lasso tool. And I'm going to highlight just the area that I need right here. Okay, so I'll get a little bit extra if you can. And then I'm going to do Command C is going to copy it. I'll move over to my pumpkin picture. Command V is going to paste it. And then I'll go ahead and hit V, use the move tool, kind of scoot that out of the way. And then we're going to go over and we'll select my eyes as well. So do Command D, we'll get rid of that selection that we had, go back to the lasso tool, all right, and then I'll take this section out like that. And I can use the command to add, sorry, not command, shift to add areas to the selection that I want, or I can use Alt to take away. So if I want to get rid of an area, then I can do that. So anyways, I'll go Command C, copy it, go back over, Command V, we'll paste it again. So now I have a mouth layer and I have an eyes layer. And then what we're going to do is first we'll get rid of the eyes and we're just going to work on this other section right here. So I'm going to go to the move tool here and I want to make sure I have show transform controls on. I'm going to have the mouth selected, and then let's go ahead and enlarge that so that way it kind of fits and fills out the space a little bit better. And then I'm going to add a layer mask by going down to the bottom of the layers palette, clicking on that, go to the brush tool, and then we're going to start painting some of this stuff away. Okay, now I'm using a fuzzy brush or a softer brush. That way I don't have to see any hard lines on my picture. And you might not have this problem, but I have a beard. So actually, you know what? Let's leave that guy down there. All right, so this will just look creepy enough. All right, so I'll go through, and then with this kind of selected, what we're going to do is I'm going to change the hue of like my skin tones and mustache and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do that with an adjustment layer so we can make it kind of blend in with the pumpkin. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the layers palette, click on the adjustment layers, go to hue and saturation, and then I'll go ahead and scoot this over. I'll zoom in so I can kind of get a better look here. And then I'm going to turn on colorize. Okay, now this is going to colorize everything, and I don't want it to do that quite yet. So I know that I can kind of see in the slider oranges in here. I'm going to bring up the saturation a little bit so I can get some more orange tones out of it. But I need to make a clipping mask so that I only work in the area where this layer underneath it exists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the Alt key, click there, and then that will make it so that this hue saturation layer only shows up on top of this layer. Kind of stops you from having to do a ton of different masking techniques. So I'll kind of scoot that until I get the orange that I want. All right, that kind of works. And then let's go ahead and we're going to start cleaning this up a little bit. So I know that I have this, but I'm going to switch to my brush tool and I'm going to get rid of the orange on my teeth because that looks weird. Okay, so I'll paint that away. All right, so we'll kind of go through there, clean up some of that. All right, and maybe I want to leave it on the gums a little bit. Looks kind of more pumpkin-y, I guess. All right, so I'll go back. I just hit X on the keyboard really quick so I can switch back and forth. And then I can also go in and kind of clean up some of this other area here. Okay, try and get rid of some of like the red from like my lips and gums. All right, so we'll kind of go in there. All right, and some of that. Okay, now I can always go back and clean up some of this stuff later. Okay, so we take that. Now I'm going to go back out a little bit, and I'm going to try and clean up some of the edges. So I want to switch to my actual layer mask here. And then I'm going to paint away just some of this stuff, so that way I kind of get a point in which I can really make everything kind of blend in. Okay, and I'll use kind of like a bigger brush to kind of fade it in a little bit better. I didn't do this on the original one, but I figured I'd leave a little like soul patch here. Okay, so I've got that. Now if I want to kind of like change up the way this layer looks, because right here my lip is kind of bright, so I could click on the regular layer here if I wanted to, and I could go down and I could try doing like burn, and burn will kind of change the exposure a little bit, make it a little bit darker, and I'm going to try and just scoot this over a little bit. It's kind of like an optional move, but I could go through here and then kind of paint that a little bit, and that'll kind of darken that area up so it isn't completely um, like just sticking out. Okay, so kind of go through, clean that up a little bit, and then once I do that, um, I kind of figured it'd be fun. You could either do this as like, I don't know, you could maybe try it on lips, but I'm gonna do this with just like kind of the facial hair. I know not everybody has facial hair, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do it just to add in something, and that is I'll add in another hue and saturation layer. So um, right above this one, I'm going to click and add in one more hue saturation layer. And when I do that, I'll go to Colorize, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Alt here, make that adjustment there, and then let's find a good green that we could use. So I'll slide the slider over to green, increase the saturation a little bit, bring down maybe the lightness, and I'm trying to match up like this with this green up here, so a little bit darker like that. And now that I've got that, I could go in, select my brush tool, and then let's get rid of a lot of this stuff here, and then voila. Okay, start getting some of that, and clean this up a little bit. Good, good. And sometimes a little imperfection helps. So if you have it too spot on, then it'll look kind of weird. Okay, so there we go. Get that. All right, that kind of looks ridiculous, but whatever. That's the fun of it. Okay, so I go through, kind of get some of that stuff set up, and then I want to add in my eyes, right? So I'm going to go to the eyes layer that I created, right? And I'm going to take that. We're going to do kind of some of the same like techniques. So if I go here, I can take the eyes and I can make it so that I add in a hue saturation layer, just like we did before. I also know that like, hey, I kind of have this like figured out from before, so I could copy that. But anyways, I'm going to take this, probably before I go anywhere, let's add a mask. Let's go to our brush tool, and then I'm going to kind of like cut out my eyes a little bit. All right, we'll start there. Be like a good jump off point. Okay, and then let's go to the move tool, zoom out a little bit. Let's make the eyes a little bit bigger. All right, hit enter when I'm all done, and then might need to rotate them a little bit. Okay, so let's say I go there, and then let's work on kind of cleaning this up a little bit. So I can scoot this window out of the way, go back to my brush tool. Let's get this out of there. All right, so I'll go back to my brush tool and can still kind of work on this just a little bit. I kind of want to get as close as I can to the eye. If I have, you kind of get like a good line, and then which it kind of looks like the eye transitions into the like pumpkin. I know there's like a layer of kind of like skin that the pumpkin has, so I can go in here, kind of get rid of that, so that way it looks like it's just cut out right there. And then we're going to work on kind of doing some other adjustments here. Okay, so first off, what I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and create the same kind of hue and saturation layer that I had before to kind of clean up any of these little extra areas. And so what I can do is I can just copy it. Okay, so I'm going to click, drag down, go to the page peel sign. I might mess up some things. It's okay. We'll put it all back. So I'm going to take this hue saturation layer and move it up top. Okay, and I know that that one I need to have a clipping mask. So I'm going to hold the Alt key. My cursor will change. Click on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and hold my Alt key again. Go down to hue saturation 2. And let's go ahead. I'm going to relabel that. That'll be the green. And this will be the orange. And I can go up here. Let's say this is the orange. Okay, and then I can go in and we're going to use our brush tool. And I am going to paint away some of this extra stuff here. So let's go paint black over where the eye is and all stuff right there. Okay. Scoot over to the other side. Okay. If you don't already know how to use the space bar and zooming in, zooming out shortcuts, then you should get to know it because it is awesome. Okay. And then once I've done that, I can kind of go through now. I kind of want to change the eyes. I have blue eyes, but I figure it'd kind of look a little bit more fun if it was green today. So to do that, I think the easiest way is I could take this other green that I have and I could copy it. Click and drag down to the page peel sign. It'll create a copy of it, or you can do like Command J, I think will do it as well. And move up to the top, hold the Alt key, click in between those. Okay, and then I'm going to paint. This is kind of my opinion, but I could paint this so that I have the effect completely go away. And then I just want to paint where I want the effect to show up. So I'll zoom back in here, and then I'm going to paint, what am I painting? White over where the eye is. And then I can add this effect just where the eyeball is located. Okay. Okay. Now I can soften that effect and adjust it too by double clicking on any of these controls. Like let's say I go back here, double click on this icon right here for the adjustment layer, and then I could go back and adjust it because I think maybe those eyes would be just a hair lighter like that. Okay, and then kind of another effect that I put on the other one, and I don't know if it's completely necessary, but I think it kind of helps create a little separation from the eyelids to the pumpkin, which would be adding a bevel and emboss layer to the eyes layer. So if I right click on this layer, go to blending options, then I went to bevel and emboss. Now this kind of has some default stuff that I already had set up. So basically here's what you need to do top down. I had the style set to inner bevel, then the technique was set to smooth. I adjusted my depth over to 750%, and it started off like way down here, and I wanted to actually like add in the effect a little bit. So I did that, and then I slowly brought in the size so that way I could get to a spot where I felt like kind of created a good separation. And then you can kind of work with soften a little bit to kind of help blend it in just a little bit better. You can choose direction up or down, and we'll get into that in a second, but it'll flip-flop these colors down here in a second. But I decided to readjust the lighting to, you can change the angle of the light. I ended up moving it down here. I could have just switched this direction right here and it would have done the same thing. But I moved it down, and then I switched the highlight mode to soft light. Then I clicked on this color, which I believe should be white, and I chose a really light area on the pumpkin with the picker tool. Then I went to the shadow mode, selected multiply for the blend mode, and then chose the color. And I chose like a darker section of the pumpkin area, and then I kind of made it just a little bit darker than that. So just clicked and dragged a little bit darker there, and then clicked OK. and then that kind of gives me this effect. So to see it without, so I'll turn that off, you just get a little bit more separation of the eyes and everything like that. Now, if I tried it the exact same thing with like the mouth, then that would look kind of weird because it would want to go to the edge of the layer to do that entire effect. So that kind of doesn't work out as much. But click OK, and then voila, you have it. So we just kind of made our face into a jack-o'-lantern. Okay, now you can also now take your move tool, rearrange some of these things. If I'm going to do that, I need to make sure I have all of the adjustment layers and the original layer selected. So if I want to move the mouth, if I take it right now and I move it, then it's going to move it away from those adjustment layers that I did. So I don't want to do that. But I do want to take all three of them together. So I could click on the first one, hold shift, click on the last one, and then I could decide that I want to make the mouth bigger, like that. Okay, scoot that over. And then maybe I want to take the eyes, hold shift, go up there, make those a little bit bigger and adjust them up. And then if I want to too, I could throw an effect over the entire thing. So I'm just going to create an adjustment layer, and let's go with vibrance. So get a little bit more of the pumpkin to show up. So I'll increase the vibrance a little bit, and that'll also increase the greens and all that kind of stuff. And I can also adjust like the saturation. That'll kind of take up some of that stuff as well. Just kind of give our lasting bit of pop to the picture to kind of have some fun with it. So there you go. We made ourselves kind of into a jack-o'-lantern. So have some fun with it.